Well, I've always had this question because I was listening to a lot of non-duality videos, and when people talk about an awakening, they always say that there's no you in the awakening.
Yeah.
But then how is it when they come back in practical way, how are they able to articulate it if there was no you in that process?
I know, it's really mysterious. I can't really give you an intellectually satisfying answer. But right now, who's listening to Lisa? I'm sorry that I'm talking about myself in the third person, but just so we don't get confusing, we'll just call her Lisa. Confused. Oh. It's already starting. But who's listening to Lisa? Does the character listen?
Right now, you're asking me?
Yeah.
Right now, it's the character.
You think the character listens?
Oh, no, this is my impression.
Yeah. Yeah. But so in the experience, it seems like the character listens. But how is that possible in the direct experience? And I'm not saying for you to just switch over to believing me. This has got to be experiential there. And that's what this conversation's about, is trying to remember that the listener was always the silence. The listener was always the emptiness. So who hears this in this direct experience? Who's hearing? And if you feel still like saying the character, that's really okay. This isn't a wrong right. This is what I do with people.
Just the body.
You think in this direct moment?
In this moment?
In this moment? So the thought comes up, it's my body that's listening. And then who knows that, or who registers that?
Who knows that? I don't.
You think that a body listens to it? To the idea that comes up and says it's my body that listens?
You mean the original source? I don't know.
It's
I can't say it's the body, I just don't know.
Yeah. I don't know is such a great answer. So in a dream at night, when we dream, we often dream as if we're looking through this particular body. So in Lisa's dreams, or my dreams, it will be through this particular body, and I'll experience the dream as if I'm looking through this body, as if I'm this body. And I'll walk through the dream looking like I do in this world. And I'll touch things and see things and do things. And is it ever the Lisa character in the dream that hears or looks or touches or feels?
No.
It's an experience, right?
Right.
That's exactly how it's happening here. That body is an experience, it's not the actual source of experiencing.
What tricked me a little bit is that in a dream everything is sort of structured, whereas in a dream it's a lot more spontaneous and...
Only when you wake up in the morning, in the comparison. In the dream it seems like it's really structured. You don't notice in the dream that bits are missing. And I mean, can you remember walking up here? Or the elevator ride up here? There's so much missing.
Yeah.
But it gives the appearance that it's really solid and really real. But actually, the way out of it isn't in thinking of it, it's in the direct experience. In the direct experience, this is being experienced by nobody. And there's not a limitation anywhere inside that body or anywhere of where you are. The character arises in this dream or in this as an experience. So this is why you can never say that somebody awakens, because who would awaken? It's just the energy changes back from this focus on I'm a character moving in time, I'm a separate individual, to boundlessness. But it's not that the character awakens, because it was always boundlessness that was experiencing the character. It's just a movement of focus or energy, not even focus. It just moves back to that emptiness, that boundlessness, rather than I am this narrow person. We always feel like that it's so close to the one that's saying, I choose to go shopping, or I'm going to go shopping, or I'm not going to go shopping. And we feel like that movement is who we are. But that movement is an experience in boundlessness. So nobody can awaken. We can describe bodies that we say, but there's no fine line. There's never a fine line. You can't certify awakening and this is this is person's awakened now and that's the way it is and that's for good. There's no like definite, but you could say that that a body's no longer, there's no longer identification in that body or something, but it's really limited because it's not the body that wakes up, because the body's an experience. But we could say in communication something like that, but it's really a load of nonsense. You could maybe limitly say like the body, the character no longer is identified, but that really means nothing because you were never the character in the first place. But there's also no fine line to it. To try and stamp a body as enlightened or not identified anymore is to go back into identification. But that's really confusing. I remember that. That's a really confusing part when you feel like it must be the character that wakes up. But it really isn't. You've never been the character. Who's looking at me now? Who's hearing me now? It's not the character.
So it seems like there's still a need for practice, even though there's nobody here to practice. There's still, because the identification with the body and with the story still comes back in, and then it's recognized that that's just another appearance.
Yeah.
But that recognition, it seems like, is helps to practice that almost. Not, just practice for finding it.
Well, there's never been a thing as practice ultimately. It's always been movement of energy, and everything you could say is practice, or there's no practice. And that's absolutely perfect if that feeling or thought's coming up to say to practice that, because it's never been you practicing it. Some speakers like to say that that practice or any of these things keep you trapped in the illusion of self. But for that to be true, the opposite has to be true. And they'll also deny that they can lead you out of the illusion of self. So if they're saying that a teacher or a practice traps you, they're also saying there's a possibility that they could lead you out from that trap, because it's implying that something separate is affecting you. So there's nothing wrong with the idea of practice at all. If that comes up and there's an idea to practice something that I say, or it's never you doing it. There's never anybody doing it. It's an absolute illusion that practice belonged to someone anyway. So if it comes up to practice, that's perfect. And also if it doesn't, that's perfect as well. It's not that it's better, that's a weird way of looking at it. It's the urges. So if there's an urge to come up to meditate or to practice, then that's the perfection there. But it's never somebody practicing. And it certainly doesn't keep you trapped, because then that would also mean that something could untrap you. It's both in land of la-la.
So the recognition of what I am, of just I amness, or just awareness not separate from the world,
isn't enough.
What do you mean?
It isn't enough, the recognition. That doesn't change anything necessarily.
Right.
It could be really profound, but it's a lot of the time, I don't know if the recognition, it's not even a beginning, there's no beginning, but that recognition, there will still be the energy which is sucking you back into personal stories. But the recognition, I know I say it, but I'm always responding to who I'm speaking to. So, like, you can always forget what I said until I'm saying it in the moment. But the recognition is even deeper than I amness or awareness. It's absolute emptiness. So I amness and awareness are both empty, and that's the main point. But after that, there might still be the sucking into to the illusory person. So there will still be the game of suffering, of feeling like you're bound, even though that sense might be known by no one so deeply that that energy still might be going into separation. That will wear itself out by itself, but it's not the end. It's not the end of suffering. Often that waking up then works or then there's some energy that has to play out that keeps sucking into that illusion. And it sometimes feels like that's a bit of a schizophrenic place, because there's boundlessness and then there's suddenly responding to life like you're an individual again, and then boundlessness, and it's very confusing. But it's definitely that energetic movement, but you will never know the fine. You'll never ever get to a position where you think you're awakened or it's gone, the illusion of self, because when you get to that place, you can be sure that you're still dreaming. Because who would have that? You can't ever know yourself. There is life, and life is empty and full simultaneously, and whether it creates someone or not is irrelevant and not something that it can know, because the quality of emptiness isn't knowing in a limited story. It creates limited stories. So as that energy moves back to boundlessness, you never know it might be the most profound, liberated body, but it will never know that. Isn't that beautiful? So humble. Like a bird or a dog. So wanting to be enlightened or wanting to find that line of liberation is just that it's a game. There's just more and more of a dissolving. Apparently. I've got to slip that one in.
There's your